I want to start off by saying I love Tarantino movies. Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2, Hateful Eight, and Inglourious Bastards. And of course, what list of Tarantino's greatest projects is complete without Django Unchained? In fact, this review itself started with a 3-minute in-depth praise of Tarantino, but my colleagues deemed it excessive, so I'll try and quickly go through what I like about him. Tarantino avoids any censorship when it comes to his movies, and it is in this where Tarantino differentiates himself from other directors. He is never going to substitute a crap in for a shit, or a frick in for a fuck. This level of everyday believable speaking is what transforms me from a viewer watching a movie into a viewer watching a story, which is a very powerful thing. This is also noticeable throughout this historically accurate film, which contains the N-word frequently. Tarantino's signature amazing monologues.
Ezekiel 25:17. The path of the righteous man is beset on all sides by the iniquities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men.
Also appear in Django. For example, Leonardo DiCaprio's speech about the difference in skulls between white people and black people is so tense, you yourself feel nervous of what is to come next.
Separation of our two species. In the skull of the African here, the area associated with submissiveness is larger than any human or any other subhuman species on planet Earth.
In Django Unchained, Tarantino goes for explicit details in his camera work, and these details are brilliant. For example, Tarantino makes it a mission to have important deaths capitalized with a blood spatter on white objects. Spoiler alert. This symbolic gesture can be seen in the death of two of the Brittle brothers, one through a page taped on his chest and the other on cotton. Big Daddy on his white horse. A gang of wanted men in the snow. And finally, the death of Calvin Candy through a white flower. Okay, enough of me drooling over Tarantino. I want to quickly shift gears and focus on Django Unchained rather than the director. Although this movie is brilliant in numerous ways, it is not perfect and has faults, as is every movie. Considering I have much more pros than cons, I will start with what I liked. First, after watching this movie on 3 separate occasions, I was reluctant to rewatch it because I assumed I would be bored. But when I began to watch it, I found it had remarkable rewatchability. It is as good the first time as it is the fourth, which is incredibly hard to do in a genre like this where you are expecting every abrupt death and every twist and turn. I thought the soundtrack was unbelievable and fit so perfectly with each scene. The western feel to all of his songs really create an immersive environment. I wish I could go further, but my review is already long. Just know that the soundtrack is amazing. This is also easily one of the best revenge movies I have ever seen, and we know Tarantino can do this. Cough, cough, Kill Bill, cough, cough. I thought the raid scene was a good addition, and it was cool to see skinny Jonah Hill, even if it was just for one movie. So first, he was slightly overweight, then bam, skinny, then bam, back to slightly overweight, then bam, overweight, then bam, back to skinny. Can't he just pick a body type and stick to it?
What the fuck, man?
Anyways, Django Unchained also had amazing acting from Jamie Foxx and Samuel L. Jackson, but the two that stole the show have to be Christoph Waltz and Leonardo DiCaprio. Waltz portrayed a lovable badass, something I never thought I would hear in my life.
Fancy pants.
Oh, very well.
And Leonardo DiCaprio, who has made a career out of portraying the good guy, was a spectacular villain. One scene in particular is a prime example of DiCaprio's talent. He slams his hand on the table,
Hey! Don't lay your palm flat on that tabletop!
begins to visibly bleed, which was not supposed to happen, then picks glass out from his hand and continues. and finally continues to method act and smears his bloody hand on his co-star moments later to her surprise.
Ice. This nigga here is too steep. What I'm gonna desire to do is...
Now, how the fuck was he not nominated for an Oscar for this? Now, some of you may say, well, his co-star Christoph Waltz was nominated and won an Academy Award for a supporting role, and they can't nominate two actors from the same movie in the same category. Well, you're wrong. Two actors can be nominated from the same movie in the same category, so why the hell was Leo not? Okay, my temper tantrum is over. Finally, I would like to mention how well developed Django is. He went from being afraid to talk to Dr. Schultz in the opening scene.
What's your name?
I'm gonna rise right out of the ground.
Django. Then you're exactly the one I'm looking for.
To shooting any white man that got in the way of his Broomhilda. Even at one point, Django and Schultz talk about not breaking character, and Django remains in character, even as Schultz is about to break character in order to save a man from being eaten by dogs. Django's willingness to stop his partner, someone much more accustomed to not breaking character, truly shows how Django has grown as a bounty hunter and, frankly, as a bad motherfucker.
I'll reimburse you.
You will?
Yep.
You'll pay $500 for practically a one-eyed old Joe ain't fit to push a broom?
No, he won't. He's just tired of you toying with him is all. Matter of fact, so am I. But we ain't paying a penny for that pickaninny. Ain't got no use for him. Ain't that right, Doc?
You heard him.
So I have praised this movie enough, but this movie is not perfect, and don't worry, I haven't lost sight of that. My main problem with this movie is that Broomhilda, Django's damsel in distress, is just boring and undeveloped. I feel like Tarantino knew this, so he added the flashbacks to help, and they really didn't. She just seemed like she was there, but not contributing anything to the story. And if you want me to root for her safe rescue, I need to care about her, and frankly, I just didn't. Something I discovered my fourth time watching this movie, not my previous three, is a glaring plot hole. So you have Schultz and Django, and they go into Candyland and offer an absurd price to buy a fighting slave, and then they plan on buying Broomhilda there as well, and then leave with Broomhilda and promise to come back with the money to buy the slave. That's their plan. A little complicated, but seemingly thought out and clever. Or, and hear me out, they simply go to Mr. Candy, offer a semi-absurd amount for Broomhilda, pay it, and leave without spilling blood. Considering Broomhilda is not a house slave and is constantly attempting to run away, they would assume no one would want to purchase her, so any offer above $600 would be plenty for Mr. Diabetes, Mr. Candy, to just accept it, and then Schultz, Django, and Broomhilda right off into the sunset. I understand this is far less entertaining of a movie, but that would have been the reasonable way to go. Considering Tarantino's brilliant execution of this blood-splattering, F-bomb dropping, satisfying revenge story, I give it a 9.4 out of 10. A movie near perfect in every category, and a film I found myself having to look extremely close for any flaws.